Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our admin. The message that was sent reads like this. Hello, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I am living with a burden of guilt that haunts me each and every day. This is the story of my betrayal, my sin, and the heavy price that I continue to pay for what I have done. Or what I have done. I was married to a good man, and he was kind and hardworking. He loved me so dearly and deeply, but despite his love and care, I was never satisfied. I let myself to be tempted by another man, a man who whispered sweet lies into my ears and made me to feel desired in ways that I foolishly thought that my husband could never love me in such a way. I started having an affair, thinking that I could keep it hidden, believing that no one would ever know. So at that time I believed, but secrets, you know that they have a way of coming to light. Eventually, my husband then found out. So when he found out, the look on his face when he confronted me, it was something that I will never forget. It was a mix of pain, betrayal, and heartbreak. He begged me to end the affair, and he said that he was never going to reveal that this is what I had been doing to his relatives. All that he wanted was for me to stop seeing the men that I was seeing. But I was stubborn and prideful. The moment that he started crying, and then I said that this man is weak to cry for a woman who has cheated on him. I did not want to admit my wrongdoings to him, and I did not want to lose the life of our excitement that I had outside of our marriage. So I was caught. I kept on wanting my husband, and at the same time, I also wanted my boyfriend. I did not want to dump my boyfriend because he was someone that was really good in bed. In my desperation to keep both my lover and my husband, that was when I did something that was truly unforgivable, something which I don't think that God will even forgive me for doing such a thing. I sought out a traditional healer and I asked for a charm to make my husband forget about the affair so that he can become almost like a zombie to me. I'll keep on cheating, but at the same time, you will keep on loving me. That is what I wanted to happen at that time. The healer then gave me a love potion, telling me to mix it with his drink. But something went horribly wrong. Instead of making Mandla forget not his real name, the potion drove him to despair. He became withdrawn, and one night, Brother Nanshi, I was at work. At that time, I was working as a night shift. He then drank some poison, ending his life. It was only after a couple of hours, that was when the kids had their father busy screaming in pain. Then they called our neighbors. Then our neighbors called me, and I was at work at that time, and I was told that my husband had drank some poison. So I then told my boss. Then my boss told me that there were some guys that were going to pick me up and go with me to the hospital. Then the driver came and picked me up, and I was taken to the hospital. Whilst I was there, that was when my husband passed away. When my husband passed away after he had committed suicide, I was really devastated. I was in shock, and I never meant for things to go this far. Even when I was crying, people just thought that I was a woman who really loved her husband. But what they did not know was that the reason as to why I was crying like that, it was because I knew that I was the one who had made my husband to commit suicide because of what I had tried to do to him. When I gave him a love potion, this love potion did not do its job properly, but it made him to act as if he was possessed by a demon, the demon that whispered all of the evil thoughts into his ears, and he ended up obeying the commands of that demon, and he committed suicide. I never meant for things to go that far. The man that I had once loved, the man who had given me everything, was gone because of my selfishness. I buried my husband, but my guilt and shame did not die with him. And then something strange began to happen, like each and every year. This has happened since that time when my husband passed away. The following year, in the same month that my husband passed away, I then started to notice that I was losing control of my mind. I was at work It was in the afternoon. Then I rushed back home because I kept on hearing thousands and thousands of voices as they were speaking all at once with me. So I knew that I was losing control of my mind. It is a spirit. It was his spirit that had came back to torment me, to remind me of what I had done. So I went mad and I started screaming. Lucky enough, when I arrived back home, my kids, they were still at school. I then dismissed my maid and I told her that it was enough for the day. She should return back to her place to see her kids. And then I locked myself in the bedroom. I started screaming and crying, seeing the visions of my husband the moment that I last looked at him when he was inside his coffin. So after that had happened, that was when I went back to the village and I told my mother the truth. My mother, she is the only person who knew about this secret, everything that had happened. But after my mother had passed away, it is only me and my boyfriend, now my ex-boyfriend, because me and him, whenever we would try to sleep with each other, like his manhood, it will never go erect. We would be having a lot of problems. And he then said that if we keep on pushing, then maybe something bad will end up happening. Then we broke up, even though he was the one who had made me to kill my husband, to force my husband to commit suicide. But I lost it all because he said, what is the purpose of us to keep on dating when I can't even sleep with a woman that I love? It is far much better that we go our separate ways. So I finally had to let him go. So my mother, after I had returned back to the village, I told my mother and I said, Mommy, this is what happened. I am the one who used some love potions because I was dating another guy. So after my husband had found out that there was someone else that I was dating, then he wanted to tell his relatives if I was not going to change my ways. So after I had convinced him that I was going to change, that was when I went to a traditional healer and I was given some charms, and I was promised that the charms that had been given to me, those charms, they were the ones that were going to make my husband to become more like a zombie, so that I can keep on cheating on him. Even if he would find out, he would never say anything about it. So my mom then told me that since this was happening to me, then we needed to make a plan. So I made a plan at first. Then we went and we woke up the spirit of my late husband, and then we directed the spirit of my husband to go and to afflict his own sister. So that happened for a couple of years. Then the sister passed away. After the sister had passed away, that was when I would see my late husband and the sister. Then they would come, then they will start to give me a lot of problems. In that same month in which my husband committed suicide, we went back to the traditional healer and she told us that she could not help us anymore. I just needed to face the consequences. So each and every year in the month where my husband committed suicide, he always comes to me and he makes me to run mad because he will be screaming at me so much that sometimes I start to scream back at him, and people will see that this woman, she is now losing her mind. But I am now used to it. Whenever we are in that month, what I do is that it's either I return back to the villages, then I just stay there until I am okay, then I return back to the city. So this is the secret that I have been keeping in my heart, Brother Nash. As for now, I have not yet given up. I am still trying to find a traditional healer, one who is much more powerful, who can sort out this whole mess. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear sister. Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world. Sure. Just imagine